Mastering Success, Unlocking Insights from the World's Elite Achievers with Stephen J. Manning. And we are going to dig into this topic, starting with some realities about elite achievers in all disciplines and aspects of life, both professional and personal, and obviously, in all areas of commerce, sports, business. I think it's a real privilege, as usual, Steve, to speak to you. And this is a very big topic that we're digging into here.
Thank you, Nathaniel. The pleasure is mine entirely.
So where do we start here, Steve?
Well, just a side note. What a way to start a talk with a side note. I think that to be in the presence of greatness is one of the most amazing experiences, privileges of a lifetime. And if you ever have the opportunity to do that, exploit it, seek it out. And by the way, in terms of greatness, just so be clear what I think of greatness, if you tell me that you and I are together in some city, Nairobi, New York, London, wherever, and you tell me that there's a guy over there who is acknowledged as the best shoe shine guy around, people wait in line because he is the best shoe shine guy. Without a doubt, I'm there. I'm going to make a point of going there because I need to learn what makes that person so elite, what makes them tick, and how do they do that on a sustained basis? What do they bring to the picnic to make them that elite? Side comment. First of all, I think that we need to acknowledge that some realities of life, that most of the true elite achievers have capacity. Capacity, define it any way you want to. I think a capacity is, again, what they bring to the picnic, brain power, resolve, all of that stuff. The thing that people shrug their shoulders, roll their eyes when I say this is that I need to understand that everyone has some degree of capacity in some ways. The problem with most people, and by the way, capacity, I think of it both quantitatively and qualitatively. Most people simply do not mine for that, do not explore that. Capacity, the real achievers have what it takes to explore their own capacity and push their limits.
Welcome to Influential Visions. Here we interview futuristic leaders who share their deep industry knowledge and business experience with you, ensuring you have your finger on the pulse and your eyes wide open. Here is your host, Nathaniel Schooler.
And leverage what they do have. There's some things that these achievers have in common. You and I talk about this. We've done talks on this. Part of my philosophies of life, the true achievers, to them, life is not a dress rehearsal. They see opportunities now. They live now. None of this soft stuff in the future. I'm going to do this sometime. I want to do this. I will think about this. I will write this. I'll run a 10K. All those things to me are Swiss cheese without the cheese. The achievers, the elites, live now to go forward. Another thing they have in common, another one of my precepts in life, is never consider failure an option. The real achievers wake up in the morning poised for success and achievement. They never start out with the potential of failure. Gee, why bother? This could fail. That does not exist for them. Finally, in just philosophies, they absolutely aim to outthink and outwork everybody else. Some of the true elites that you and I know, we are fortunate to know some, and then we read, listen to, really do outthink most people. They just do. They can and they want to. And one of the other things they have in common is they just outwork everyone else. You may not be able to outthink everyone else, but you can certainly try to outwork them. That's kind of the sort of basis. And then we can get into, we've identified just a half a dozen things having to do with attributes of the world's greatest achievers. So it's up to you which one. We have a list of determination and focus and discipline and all of that, and confidence, adaptability, and more. So we can talk about any one of those if you like, to whatever extent you wish.
Yeah, I mean, before we dig into these, I want to talk about how athletes visualize success. They visualize scoring that goal. They visualize throwing the ball in the hoop. They visualize running faster than anyone else has ever run before. And I really truly believe that is possible within business as well, and all areas of life. Visualization, and I'm not talking about visualization as in, oh, well, it might happen and some vision board and this. I'm talking about literally in your mind, scoring the goal, making the sale, hitting the home run, shooting that hoop, whatever it is. But literally, I'm really interested in that. And I think that there's a lot to be said for actually visualization in terms of just taking the time of actually thinking, okay, what's going to happen? What does this mean for me? And actually visualizing the moment of success, that actual specific moment when you make those 1,000 sales, when you push that button, as one example, on your paid advertising, as one example.
I think it's visualization coupled with discipline. Okay, because visualization can't be just pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Can be dreaming. Oh, by the way, real achievers do have dreams, but they're not dreaming of the absurd. They're dreaming of the possibility. So I think visualization is very, very powerful. It's a funny thing. Some of the greatest athletes on earth have psychiatrists in tow. In fact, some of the, I'm well versed in things like tennis and skiing, racing, and so many of the top performers have traveling coaches. These are, without a doubt, mind benders. They help them visualize a good performance. And you visualize running it faster, visualize hitting that forehand a little differently. And when you do, this is what's going to happen. And when you can combine it with discipline and they actually do it, that's when you build on it. You see, visualization work. If you see yourself a failure, that is absolute train wreck. That's why I keep saying failure is not an option. If you consider failure, congratulations, you just embarked on a train wreck. Failure is never an option. Success is the goal and the only option. And if you don't visualize it, for the truly successful, that is part of the ordinary goal setting. I mean, here's my goal. Okay, I'm visualizing that moving forward, that success. You don't want to do that? There are many opportunities to make a living doing something else. There's a lot of great jobs that are ordinary, but the great achievers have a different focus. They have that goal. And that's not pie in the sky. That's not walking on Mars. For most. Well, Elon Musk is different, but for most, it's not walking on Mars. But you're right. Visualization is incredible. It's also a fantastic mind exercise. Mm-hmm. Hello. You're about to go out on a first date with that awesome woman you met, that awesome guy you met. You know a little bit about them. And now you have to think about, how's that going to go? Oh, just jump in the pool and you'll find out later if you can swim. That's not going to work out. But you can visualize, and that's how I know it's happened to you, happened to me, visualize that meeting ahead of time. Now, I'm visualizing what's going to happen. I'm visualizing what I need to do. I then do a bunch of homework. And then I take that to, this is what I need to, this is what I will do. And these are my expected benefits from it. I pretty much walk into that meeting if I've done the right homework, visualized the process. I pretty much walk in there, I'm done, and I walk out saying, I had them beat before I walked in. Imagine that. as a way of life. And I've seen some of the very best perform at a level that's astounding. Of course, they have the capacity, and they also have done the work, and they could not conceive a different outcome. Not
But
to say
you're right. But doing the homework with regards to everything, it alleviates a lot of stress. And I just noticed that earlier today, because I'm doing a bit of decorating at the moment, and I'm not really that into decorating, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm into the finished product, but I don't particularly like the steps, right? And I looked at my kitchen ceiling. What's that? You can relate to that, right? Many people can relate to that, right? So looked at the kitchen ceiling, and I was just completely overwhelmed with the holes and the edges and just everything in that room. I look at the ceiling and I'm like, oh no, really? Is this what the guy did before? He didn't finish it, right? So I went to Gemini, and I couldn't believe the in-depth DIY knowledge that Gemini had. It actually blew my mind. I took pictures of the ceiling, and I was like, okay, so what do I do here? What do I do there? Do I do this? Do I do that? Can I put an edge that's a different size on one side and then match it up with the other corners? And Gemini was like, yes, you should do that. That's the best way to do it, and hide this piece of wood that's there and just cover it over. And I was like, because I'm not a DIYer, right? Like, it's just not my thing, yeah? And well, it hasn't been, because I didn't enjoy it when I was married, right? But actually, it's quite enjoyable now. And I think it's funny how you can just sort of be determined to do something. And that determination, whatever happens to you along the way, you've got your goal, right? And you might get thrown off at some point during the way. There might be things that come along, because this is life. Life happens to you, right? But if you stay focused on your goal and you are determined to reach that goal, you will get there, right? Like that's how I'm looking at it.
Well, two comments. First of all, I don't really want to get into what that fantastic computer in Wichita Falls, Kansas, or where the heck your Gemini box happens to be. I don't want to know what that one thinks about your wife and marriage. That's way outside my competencies. And there's a lot of things that we do because we have to. A lot of things we do because we want to. There are a lot of things we do because we're compensated to do them. That's the life of a writer, for example. Writers write for three reasons. They want to, they have to, and then bottom line is, I'm getting paid. I must do this. But you're talking about focus, and to tie it into the true elites, which is the bottom line topic for what we're doing here, the world's elite, the achievers. And you talk about focus. Now, it's astounding to watch those people operate. They have an unwavering clarity on their goals, and also the path to get those achieved. Oh, by the way, I will talk about resilience and adaptability as well if you want to. But they have the unique ability to block out extraneous distractions. The laser focus that pushes all the mind benders and time wasters away. If I may just give you a simple example, because it occurred to me watching an F1 race. I think it might have been Kiki Raikkonen, one of the all-time greats. He drove this Formula One race, 190 miles, I think, about 75 laps. There are 18 turns per lap. That is, 200 gear shifts. Now, he was disqualified. Why was he disqualified? Every lap he drove was within maybe a second of the mean. He hit every turn, 78 laps, exactly the same way. By the way, pure visualization coupled with just reflexive work. Mind process turned 12 understood the speed, the turn and the turnout, gear shifts. The focus part is what blew my mind. He completed the race, 78 laps, won it. And now 300,000 people screaming, everybody screaming in his ears, excitement, and he goes by the checkered flag. And then a couple of minutes later, he was disqualified. Why? Because when you get past the checkered flag, you need to slow down to about 60% of your speed. Otherwise, you're going to rear-end people because the race continues without you and people are trying to catch up on it. Slow down, get out of the way. Notwithstanding the screaming in his ears, notwithstanding people going by, the man drove the next lap at the same exact speed, same turn, same everything. Focus.
Wow.
Some people think that's called a zone. I've seen the zone in business people executing a deal, negotiating a deal. Talk about focus. A great story about this because I'm amazed. This guy lost the race, by the way, because he didn't slow down. You know, I mean, just it's pretty amazing.
Incredible. He must have been
and
so
that goes
annoyed.
together with discipline.
Wow.
You know, focus, discipline, visualization, and the incessant need to repeat the same action because that's how you achieve the goal. It's phenomenal stuff. And discipline, a big topic. What do these people have in common? Every one of these people has discipline in common. It doesn't matter how eclectic Branson might be. Doesn't matter how eclectic Musk might be. Oh, I'm going to Mars and create a colony of people because we need it. Because Earth is going to be extinct in 100 generations. I promise you, all the bravado notwithstanding, they have the discipline to perform. They just do. Oh, well, you know, Branson is just going to get on a balloon and go to Mars. No. It seems like it, that's not true. He's a very disciplined guy. And so are all the great achievers. They're disciplined. And the discipline is interesting. And you and I talked about this as well. It's you commit to goal, you create it, you commit to it, you commit to how you're going to get there. Oh, by the way, you do have flexibility, you adaptability. Without that, you're going to break. Things change. You attack it with total commitment, all the resources. And by the way, for these people, anything they attack is 24/7, 365. It's not, oh, it's a weekend, it's a holiday. So now they pursue their goals maniacally, but they do it with the brain fully engaged. They don't take shortcuts, unnecessary shortcuts, because impatience breeds really poor outcomes. And
yes,
they all recognize.
Mm-hmm. That's something I want to dig into, actually, the impatience, because it's like, it's a very difficult one, right? Because you want to achieve something, and I think you need a certain level of impatience in order to do what it takes as fast as you can, because that impatience kind of drives the speed, no? Or am I just adding hyperbole to this conversation?
No, I think that there's a distinction between impatience and ambition. We talk about you only cover yourself as far as your blanket reaches in terms of finances and so on. There's a very big difference between ambition and impatience. I really do want to swim the English Channel. Now, if I'm a really quality swimmer, I understand what that takes. I understand the training regimen. I understand the body conditioning I must have, and then I will swim the English Channel. I'm not going to jump in the channel and hope that I'm going to be able to swim it because I'm just a great swimmer. No. That's not going to happen. You need to prepare. You need to be focused on what you're going to do. And which takes me back to what I think that all the great achievers, the elites, they really recognize the realities of their own lives and competencies. Okay? They create the pace within those boundaries of what they could do, how they're going to do it. And they do find their own comfort zone. Now, their comfort zone may be here, whereas mine is here. But their competencies, abilities, whatever the heck it is, just ability to live is over here. But, also, it's interesting. People start out to do something and they're going to become great at a career. A lot of the elites plan that from birth. Oh, heck, Stephen King was going to be a writer when he first started to talk. Foregone conclusion. Read about Elon Musk. Who knows what he's going to become when he was a kid? How many times did he change course? He was always a thinker, but what he does now, without a doubt, is quite unique. And then you look at, you and I talk about athletes because you're a quality athlete. I'm a broken down old jock. Think about how many of the best athletes on earth started out in other sports. Just to recognize their path when they hit that proverbial fork in the road. I was watching the ATP tennis from Rome. Imagine if Yannick Sinner, who is the best player in the world today, and he's destined to be iconic in time, as long as his body holds up. Imagine if he decided to just be a really good skier instead of soon to be an iconic tennis player. Imagine if the best authors in the world would write only when inspiration and the mood strike. Only in the movies does F. Scott Fitzgerald sit around for 3 years, hoping the muse will strike, hoping for divine intervention, and then write The Great Gatsby. Seriously? Now, don't do this, but I promise you, you pull the best of the best, top of the most successful writers alive and dead. And by the way, if you can interview them, please let me know. I'd like to be your agent. They approach writing the same discipline as when you have to do the 9-to-5 job. They get up in the morning at the same time. They take a shower, put on their work clothes, go to that specific part of the house where they work. And then they work. They write all day. None of this inspirational stuff. And I'm astounded when I had the pleasure to talk to a couple of these people. Oh, no. They plan these 15-minute coffee breaks, and they plan lunch break, never more than an hour, disrupt the brainwaves, and then they quit at 6, dinner time. Good, man, that's like a job. Oh, yeah, it absolutely. And then, of course, then take it from everyone that writes for a living. Of course, after dinner, you might just sit down and pull a few all-nighters, But the discipline, the focused. Quick story. I think the best commercial writer I knew, Nick Schick, is a phenomenal advertising writer. Now, our paths were very much intertwined for a long time. It's the point where he's not feeling well, he's challenged, oh my God, all this stuff going on. And then the phone rings, and it's the biggest bank in the world. They're about to send out a letter, a big package with 20 pieces of paper to 27 million cardholders. And they forgot the 6-page letter that talks about what they do, how they do, what they're going to, the whole idea. Here's the letter, and this is why we got 20 more pieces of paper, and you need to act on this. John, we need that. Now, John is about to commit suicide for various reasons, and then, being the master elite, he turns to the keyboard and starts writing. And it's lawyered and it's in print by midnight. And he says, it doesn't matter if I'm suicidal, homicidal, I have to be very, very good. And now, look, you and I have been writing on demand for a long time. When one of your friends, perhaps your best friend or partner or someone important in your life makes that panic phone call that says, Steve, I have a problem with Attorney General of X state. Okay, what you do, not the point. Here is the 12-page letter, demand letter we just got, and we must respond to it today. And I say, you got it today and you have to respond today. Well, that's not true. We had it for 10 days, but we must respond by close of business today. Maybe you might have called me earlier in the morning or yesterday. We drafted something and it's terrible. You need to redraft it, please. Okay, I don't know what the issue is. I don't really know that Attorney General. I knew several, but not that one. And nobody gets attacked quite that way without doing a little something wrong. What choice do I have? You sit down and write. No. I don't compare myself to the elites by any stretch. But to watch all those people pursue what they do maniacally with such clear focus, and they marry that with a tremendous capacity they have. Oh, by the way, I need to make a quick statement here about all of these people, all the elites that you and I talk about, read, listen to. They're all committed students, not just practitioners, they're students. All elite performance in any discipline, pick one, shining shoes, splitting the atom, sending people to Mars. They're all hardcore committed equally to their craft as they are to their vocation and avocation. I brought up, your friend Branson. That is a man equally committed to his vocation and his avocation. All of these people.
Funny though, I was listening to him the other day actually, talking about when he started Virgin, the airline company. And it really did make me smile. He was just, I think what it was is that he was fed up with, he basically was going somewhere on a flight, I think down to the islands in the Caribbean, and British Airways cancelled the flight. That's what it was. So then he chartered a flight, and then he went around and talked to all the people that had just been cancelled. He said, I've got a plane. Do you want a ticket? And they were like, okay. And that was how he started Virgin, which I just thought was fantastic.
Branson line of all time. In an interview, he said, do you want to know how to become a millionaire? The answer is very simple. Start with $1 billion and buy an airline. You become a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, it must be hemorrhaging cash over the years, those sorts of businesses. But in terms of
the very point here about the commitment to excellence, if you will, sorry, that's a little trite, but to commitment these people feel. I know this. I just know this. The most common shared belief among the elites is that if you stand still, you will fall behind. I mean, why don't you go enjoy this immense wealth? No, I'm into doing better and more. For these people, a lot of these people, money is just a measurement tool to speak to success they're achieving. But I'm just so phenomenally impressed by they look and they believe with every fiber of their body that if they stand still, basking whatever glory, whatever they're involved in, they will fall behind.
Right.
Phenomenal.
Right. But there is a certain level of confidence that we must have, whether that is blind confidence, almost sort of delusionary in a way. It's quite connected to faith in what you're doing and your vision. But I do think confidence, when that is combined with dedication, discipline, determination, focus, adaptability and resilience, and with a continual mindset of continual learning, though you eventually you're going to succeed. No matter how many times you fall, you will succeed eventually, because it's not that difficult. There are only a certain number of ways that you can fail before you become successful, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, a reality that a lot of people, that keeps a lot of us ordinary folks from reaching for the proverbial stars And mind you, don't be reaching for the stars only if you think you can actually get there and you can plot the course to get there. Otherwise, it's foolish. It's pointless daydreaming. I think that the confidence these people have, they have it, they feel it, they act on it, and absolutely continue to develop it every single step they take in pursuit of excellence or mastery. Failure. We talk about failure is never an option. Pretty much every one of these people that we behold, for good reasons, have failed before. Many of them failed often and spectacularly. But when they get up in the morning, they're not considering failure an option. And it's interesting, important to note that when they fail, and again, they fail often and sometimes spectacularly, it's never because of a lack of genuine effort. Often you have these incredible failures by these future massively successful elite people, and you dig into it and say, the world just changed. And it may have been a great idea 25 years ahead of its time. For those of you watching, listening, let me confess that we have done that. We've come up with simple concepts 20 years ago, and we got laughed at. We got threatened with lawsuits. And today it's ordinary. Today's ordinary. We can whip ourselves for not sticking to it, but one of the great brains told us that we're going to get handcuffed for doing this. Location-based advertising. Really? We called that we had a great title for that years ago, Mad Cow's Weight. But that's just another story for another time. What does a mad cow weigh? We developed a whole thing about location-based advertising. And quite frankly, one of the biggest supermarket chains in certainly the U.S. told me that they're going to prosecute me if I let people know they're running out of toilet paper. Hey, you must be running out of toilet paper. You really should come by the store, which, by the way, is 2 blocks on your left, says your text message, and toilet paper is on sale, 20% off. I think it's the biggest supermarket chain in the country. They told me they're going to have me prosecuted for the incredible invasion of people's privacy. I said, we getting all this data. We know the frequency of buying toilet paper. We know that Mr. Johnson there must be running out. Let's tell him it's on sale, and he happens to be driving a block from the store. Does that not make sense? Okay, well, try to drive 2 blocks without getting those now. But it's an amazing thing that people like this have the capacity and the discipline move on. By the way, they are in fact resilient, without a doubt. They adopt and they have resilience. But remember, they're still going to Mars. They just maximize their behaviors, adapting to the realities of today, and they anticipate pretty darn well. Doesn't mean, again, they don't start out with their hearts and minds and soul reaching for that galaxy over there, business, personal, whatever the hell it is. However, whatever they chose to do, ultimately they all end up having their feet firmly planted on terra firma. These people are not daydreamers.
Well, a very interesting conversation. I think to round it off, what do you think about self-sabotage and how that can affect your success in whatever it is, whether it's a sport or business or life? Because I was thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking a lot about that because your brain is an interesting element that, if you think about it, we don't consciously use all of our brain all the time, and sometimes we can allow the subconscious brain to mess around with our outcomes based upon certain belief systems that we can regenerate or hold on to based upon our age, upbringing, environment, people around us, our inputs, our outputs, etc. And I've been pondering this quite deeply the past sort of couple of days.
Self-sabotage, going backwards in terms of the extent to which we actually perform, and may the spirits forgive me for quoting Harvard. They're not my favorites these days. Harvard is my rearview mirror by some decades, but I think they conducted a survey, which is an unusual survey. They went out and interviewed some 75 of top CEOs in top companies. These were truly the elites in the business world. And one of the questions they asked was, what do you think your degree of performance is day to day compared to your ability or your capacity? Shockingly, these people who by all measures are performance elite. They're very successful. They're incredibly driven. When the CEO of that Fortune 20 plays golf, it's business golf. And when he quit his job, he quit it because he realized he had 3 kids in college and didn't remember going to any of the high school graduations. But they are true hardcore committed performers. You know what the average was? They quoted. They thought that if they performed at 70% of their ability, they were really knocking it down. Think about that. Those people think that, and when they're really performing, maximum turbo boost, Formula One, jumping off glaciers, they're performing at 70% ability. What does that leave us? That leaves us performing at 30, 40% of what we could do. But we don't. Why don't we? Well, back to your ability to self-assess, your ability to then go ahead and maniacally perform that, to learn, to study, and then you might push that 30. I believe we perform at 40%. I think that when I'm humming on 12 cylinders, I'm really cooking. I promise you, at the end of that process, what the heck it is, job it is, whatever that piece of writing it is, when it's done and everyone says, good, we did a good job, I'm the unhappiest guy in the room. Because I know to certainty I could have done a lot better. And if I allow myself, I'm like, can I rewrite this? Sorry, it was on yesterday. And I beat myself because I know I could do better. And I'm not sure how, but I do know I could do better. Self-sabotage is a reality for most people. The whole soft stuff I talk about, I can't, I won't, maybe I will, I should, but all of that stuff, once again, we're back to Swiss cheese without the cheese. Okay? How many times in your career as a broadcaster, as a writer, my 4th career, or my 3rd or 2nd, whatever they are, when I talk about communications, it's a huge, massive topic. The great communicators tell me they don't know how they're doing it. They're not sure they're doing it right. They're going to do better. Oh, I had someone, we just did a great piece for a big business publisher. Okay, here it is. And I get a paragraph on the art of writing and rewriting. Okay, I'm thinking of committing suicide because if I believed that writing is rewriting, I would never write anything. It's composing and then committing to paper and then having a great editor, Annie, who makes sure that what I wrote is English. But the self-sabotage part is I can't, therefore I won't. Wait a minute, I won't because I can't. Nonsense. Have you tried? Oh, I really want to write this. This is what I want to communicate, but I don't know how. Does it sound right? What are you trying to say? Well, this is what I'm trying to say. So why haven't you said it? Okay, CEO of a company that is medium-sized by American Standard Company sends me the thing and says, "Okay, gee, I love you, but I got to ask you. I just wrote this and it sounds terrible. Would you mind reading it?" Nah, I get a lot of stuff from this guy written to colleagues, businesses, regulatory agencies, an animal by a different name. It's a 4-page letter to his wife. Heartfelt. There's some things, I mean, they're a great marriage by all, whatever. 4 kids, successful. But there's some things that are brewing. He needs to get them out. So I said, I'm a little confused. Don't you live with this woman for, 32 years? Yeah. This doesn't sound right. So I said, stop. I said, I was going to beat up on the guy because clearly he's hurting. Brilliant guy. I said, would you mind sending this back to me? Write me 5 bullet points of what you really want to say. Well, I can't get 5 bullet points. Well, you wrote 1,200 words, but try 5 bullet points. So hours later, I get 5 bullet points. The whole thing is a couple hundred words. I said, great. So how about, dear Anne, these are things I need to address for our ongoing happiness, etc., and forgive the brevity. Let's have breakfast and talk. 6 bullet points. Love you, Kevin. This guy called me on the phone and says, have you lost your mind? Are you trying to destroy my marriage? I said, you asked. So is this what you want to say? Yeah, it is. Then why don't you say it? I said, you realize that a couple pages, you're sabotaging your marriage. You know, the horse is long dead, man, is in a glue factory. What are you trying to say? Pure self-sabotage. You are not, why? You're sabotaging what you're trying to you're sabotaging your desired outcome, and 2, you completely devalued yourself in the process. Now, it's self-sabotage. I have to share this, Nathaniel, for 2 reasons. 1, I love you. And 2, as much as I talk and wave my arms around and make all these statements and all of that, and I appreciate your patience with all that, I'm quick to say that I have thought about the whole notion of self-sabotage since probably my early 30s, when I began to enjoy some success in business and hopefully in life as well. If there's one thing that I'm real hardcore about that I believe makes me more valuable than not, is that I'm 100% clear on what I don't know. That ties into self-sabotage. How many times do I have the opportunity to what do you think about this? And that could be one-on-one, could be a boardroom, it could be a room with 2,800 people and doing a Q&A. There's a couple of ways to go about that. If you don't want to sabotage yourself, whatever you're engaged in, be clear on what you know and what you don't know, and say that so. There are a number of ways you handle that, whether you're talking to your boss, a client, or your wife, or your husband, or your kids in a contentious situation. I think the answer is this. Good. Then you're going to eat crow 2 days later when you find out you're really wrong. And there are 2 people in the room who don't know you're wrong. Or you can not self-sabotage. You can build on you. I don't have a real answer for your question. I have some thoughts on it. This is what they are. But I'd like to come back to you in a week, and I'll give you some much better answers. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's really good.
That's a smart guy. But, I had to learn that, Nathaniel, when I was young and brash and arrogant, and I bloody knew everything. And I was going to go down in flames with that. That's my story, and I'm going to die with it. You and I write about that. We talk about it. One of my mentors, and I talk about 3 of them. This is the article that I showed you. My mom, my dad, and John. And John's the one who taught me to understand the clear difference between what I am, who I am, and what I represent. So don't sabotage everything you are and could be, because the opportunity presents itself to step on your own feet. Self-sabotage. Can we do a couple hours on self-sabotage sometime?
Yeah. That's really interesting. It's a really interesting topic, and I think one that people really need to study. They really need to get over themselves, because it involves so many different things. I mean, we're not going to talk about them all now, but next time, when we get the time to talk about these things, I think it's a really great topic to write about and talk about, because there's the vision of yourself in the future, the vision of the person that you need to grow into to build whatever it is you want to build, and then there's the child that you still have, and then there's the person who you are now, right? And there's obviously a gap between the person who you are now and the person who you need to become to get to where you want to get to, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So assessing your skills, assessing the gaps with knowledge, and assessing the attitude, your vision, your goals, and how they all go together with these things is a massive topic. It's huge, and something I'd definitely like to dig into.
I have to say this to our thankfully and wonderfully growing audience. What my friend and colleague just said is profound, and take it from a guy who's smart and a perpetual student. Schoolers is not standing still. I'm troubled by talking about Man on the Moon, and that's going to take notes. He's going to go back and rethink that one. I think it's an amazing character trait to get a guy who has some success in life, without a doubt, who has an audience of many thousands, and who is absolutely a perpetual student. He is not going to say, I know this, rather than I think this, and I want to. I get to hear Nathaniel say, I want to know more about that. And he goes off and talks to his friend at Gemini or at Grok or whoever, and then calls his friend in the UK or some guy in Paris that happens to lecture on that topic that he's interested in.
But that's what's so fascinating about the world that we live in, Steve, is that you can do the groundwork before you get on a call with someone that knows everything about this topic. You can say to them, look, I really want to know all about this. I need to learn because I'm doing blah, blah, blah. And I'm quite happy to do the research on my own, but I'm just a little stuck on a few things. And then you can get all the information that you need around any specific topic that you can think about. That's what's so exciting about life these days, is that literally we have so much information that is out there. We literally just need sometimes just do 5 minutes of research. 5 minutes of research will give you more information than you probably could actually handle about a topic. But the problem is that you just keep digging and digging. If you've got a brain like I have and like Steve has, you take that research and then you can't stop thinking about it until you understand what you need to understand in order to complete the task that you want to complete. And that can be quite time consuming mentally. It can be quite exhausting. But then once you get over that initial step of not knowing anything to knowing more than most people, it's actually really quite exciting.
Isn't it? How many times have you heard this? How do you know that? It's obscure. I read it, heard it, whatever. I mean, I discontinued 3 news clipping services this year because the other 2 are plenty. And by the time we get reading Baldoni, and by the time, and all the stuff you absorb must be exhausting. My answer is, it's happily exhausting.
Yeah. But that's the problem, is people don't have a growth mindset. They don't have a growth mindset. So if they don't have a growth mindset, self-sabotage will always get them, because if they don't understand about it and understand that they have to have a growth mindset in order to become successful, more successful than they ever dreamed of before, then they're just stuck, right? Like they're literally just stuck in a place where it's like a continual wheel that they will always self-sabotage because there could be so many reasons. There can be,
It's a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah, there can be so many reasons, though, like they don't deserve it because of something their father said to them when they were 11, or they don't deserve it because of something their ex-wife said, or something they said to themselves about maybe becoming successful means they have more problems because responsibilities come with this, blah, blah, blah. But to be honest, I think becoming successful cures most of these things because actually you're growing into someone who can handle these problems, right? That's what's so exciting about it.
I remember a friend of mine telling me years ago, I'm not asserting he's particularly bright, but if you make that more money, imagine the taxes you're going to pay. And I said, the day I write a check to the Internal Revenue Service for this much money, I will dance around the building naked out of happiness. Not a sight you want to see, but the point is what it is. And for those of you watching, listening, who are raising kids, which without a doubt is one of the most challenging, sweetest tasks there is, and if you don't feel the weight of that on your heart, mind, soul, etc., you shouldn't have kids. But I raise my kids not to question authority, because that bugged the heck out of me when they questioned mine, which they did from the time they begin to speak. But, I said, you got to listen to the Beatles, Yellow Submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. Well, I taught my kids from birth, quite, that, I'm not that smart, and I'm never going to come up with a new way to split the atom or a new chocolate ice cream. So when I go through a thought process, I'll come up with questions. I'll go through testable hypotheses. And since everything for me is deductive, which is, I think, is true of 99.9% of people, and every once in a while we do have a uniquely thought out idea or, truly independent thought. When I come to a conclusion, consider that just another testable hypothesis. So ask the next question and the next and the next and the next until someone says, just go away, which is what I learned to do with my kids. Every once in a while I would say, okay, now I've answered this 7 times. I don't have a better answer. Go away. But Dad, okay, well, now that my daughters are grown and successful women, every once in a while I'll get that, not frequently, that one-line text or email say, hey, Dad, I just said this in a meeting. My youngest, who is a global whatever for a big entertainment platform, I just said this in a meeting. Thought you'd like to know. It's something bordering stupid they used to say all the time when they were little. But she found the right time, that popped in her head and said that. And people said, that's profound. I said, did you tell them that there was BS my dad came up with when he ran out of other ideas? Oh, no. Bottom line being, ask the next question and next and the next and the next. You and I, shameless researchers, I hope till they say some kind of prayer over my carcass, I will still be wanting to learn something different or better. I'm fortunate to have been raised by a couple of my parents who were, by nature, very curious. My mother was a lifetime student of everything. So I grew up with that whole notion of there's more questions to be asked. By the way, I'm not so sure that I was 12 or 13. I really cared much about the exchange rates of the rupee versus the yen, but my mom happened to be reading about it. So anyway, I obviously took a detour to talk about something that I think is very critical for all of us who are raising kids. By the way, same dynamic with colleagues, people who work for you, people you work for. The collaborative idea of learning from each other, pushing each other to better and better. I promise you, the elites have a cadre of people they call all the time. Hey, I know I just got the Pulitzer again, but I'm writing this. What do you think? I'm not ever going to get a Pulitzer. You want to know what I think about that paragraph?
You never know, Steve.
From the mouth of babes comes some really brilliant stuff every once in a while. Or different.
100%. So thank you. And, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm a bit mystified by how to do some research, just get out there, go and look at your AI, ask some questions, tell it how you want it to respond, tell it what you're doing, and then go and do some research. You'll find that it's actually a lot more fun than you ever imagined, and it beats Google search a million times. So, and if you want to really dig into a lot of what Steve and I are up to, you need to go to mondayinfluencer.com, because we have masses and masses of content that is ready for you every week. We have mondayinfluencer.com. So go to that. You will not regret it. It's a $1 free trial on there. So,
with the millions of words we've written and spoken, and all the speeches, and all the expert talks, and all the published stuff, the 300 interviews that Nathaniel has done with really cool, notable people, among them a couple that do fall in the elite category that we're talking about.
Many of them, many of them, Steve. And we have, don't forget, we have this library of over 500 pieces of content that we are uploading every week to mondayinfluencer.com, and that is becoming a fantastic learning management solution for people, and it is really quite groundbreaking, actually. So if you want to learn from the best, then that is where you should go. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much for listening to Influential Visions. Please make sure you share this episode with your friends and business connections. And don't forget to drop us a review wherever you listen. Thanks.